Welcome to another episode of taking a look at level design, especially when it comes to multiplayer shooters. Last time I did a video on Quake was actually quite a while ago. I downloaded some of the highly rated maps on LVL World. However, I don't think that they're the best that the Quake community has to offer. I have personal favorites that tend to fit closer to the 5 rules of level design in a multiplayer first-person shooter. You can pause the screen if you want to read the rest of this, but for now we'll just move on. There are 3 maps in particular I want to show, and they are customly made maps. So this map is called Golconda. It was created many years ago by a map designer that is more known for his symmetrical maps. And when I mean symmetrical, I mean extremely symmetrical. Boring maps. Not very good footing, not nice flow, confusing as heck, just bad maps. And yet, he brings out this map. And it is a phenomenal map that may just be nostalgia talking, because I did play this map back during Quake 3's heyday. It's a very old map, but I don't think it's nostalgia, because there are lots of maps that I was a huge fan of when I was younger that I don't like anymore. And that's simply because they just weren't that good. Whereas this one stands the test of time. Now it looks simple. It has a very basic texture set. It's a very common texture set. In fact, I've seen lots of maps use these textures. And yet it upholds the 5 rules more than most maps out there. Most highly regarded maps out there. Yes, there is like a glitch in the skybox. I believe that's a driver issue. I don't think that's the game itself. So I'm going to have to look and see what's going on there. As you can see, there is an important item even from this vantage point. It's a rocket, railgun, shotgun, and if you just fall down here, there's a lightning gun. Obviously, there's also a grenade launcher, but I don't count the grenade launcher. Not that useful of a weapon. I don't care what the pros say. It's not just the weapons. Plenty of items for health and armor. Now, what's interesting is that down here you have both the red and the mega health. You might think, well, that's not a good design. Well, the thing is that this is actually a very vulnerable place of the map. First of all, you have the water that actually does slow down your movement ever so slightly, so you become a slightly easier target. But also on top of that, this is the most connected room in this map. So you have all of these areas where people can drop down and ambush you if you're trying to get both these items. So you shouldn't spend too much time there, especially here. This is like a little secret area. you can just pop out of there and be like, surprise! But also we got that doorway, you got a teleporter, and of course you have this long shaft that drops all the way down here. Now it doesn't drop on top of the items, but because of the water, it actually doesn't harm you that much. It does protect you a little bit from fall damage. So even if you have the mega and the red armor that spawns there are very close together, it offsets this focus because of how vulnerable you can feel down here. So you only go there if you really need to get the items, or if you think you have an opportunity to get one or even both of those items. So there's a lot of strategy there. It's a really interesting concept that I haven't seen other maps take. You can get to the top of the map almost like within 3 seconds. You can get around really fast. The teleporter helps a lot. And of course, falling down is also pretty fast. And sometimes, if you're really skilled, you can use the rocket launcher to get you even further. You got the lightning gun, and if you want to go back up, you can. There's just lots of places to go, things to do. It is such an efficient use of space. It may be very simple to look at, but it does have architectural flair to it. There's also lots of landmarks. This is very iconic. That's iconic. This here, this little balcony and shelter here that takes you down to the lightning gun. It's got great flow. It's a good size. If I were to nitpick, and really it is a nitpick, it's not actually going to hurt the scoring of this map. There is this random little invisible wall here, but once you know that's an invisible wall, you're never gonna go there. And maybe I would add some more items here, because I feel like that if you stand right here, there are no items on this side of the map, but there are lots of items on that side of the map. Now fortunately this is only a small sliver of the map, so it's not that big of a deal. That being said, when I am running down these stairs, I do feel like I'm at a huge disadvantage, since the last weapon I picked up was probably the shotgun, and there's no other items here until you reach the middle of the map. So if you're being cut off by an opponent, it might be difficult. Fortunately, you have options. Go through the teleporter and get out of there as quickly as you can, but you can't stay here too long, because again, you can travel through this map really fast, and so does your opponent. This is an incredible map. I cannot believe the person that made those other maps made this one. It is so out of left field. It gets easily an A+. And now I'm going to be incredibly unoriginal. I won't spend too much time on this, but this map, Blood Run, everyone knows it. Started life in Quake 1, further refined in Quake 3. I don't know if there's a Quake 2 version of this map, probably, who knows. As you can see, nice flow, important item in almost every room, and there's also multiple ways of getting around. Sure, you could rocket jump up there, but you might as well just take the teleporter. I also like that it has the little detailing that actually helps you to get around without taking damage, like this as an example. It's not something you'll use a lot, but when your health is really low, sometimes people might feel the need to be extra careful. Quad damage spawns there, and if we keep going, obviously there's a typical grenade, which is you know, take it or leave it. Basically, good item placement, structure is sound, not confusing to navigate, lots of landmarks. It's a nice looking map, at least in terms of texture use. It is a very complicated looking map, and yet because of the very coherent art style of Quake 3, it isn't visually noisy or visually overwhelming. The teleporters make a huge difference. This one, which is the lowest point, takes you to the highest point in the map. Okay, well, maybe it's not the highest point. The quad damage is the highest point, but it's very logical. And sometimes you have a teleporter that just takes you up 2 floors instead of taking you across the entire map. So it has 2 teleporters that are very useful. One that takes you from one side of the map to the other side, and another that just takes you vertically up. Maybe slightly diagonal, since it, you know, spawns you there instead. But what's really great about this map is navigating through this map is really interesting. It's like, yes, you can rocket jump here if you want to get to that red armor, or by not hurting yourself too much, you can do little strange rocket jumps here and there. In Quake Champions, which they finally made this map an official map, that, you know, they made some changes to it. I think there are some improvements in the Quake Champions version of that map, but ultimately all of the heavy lifting has already been done. This has always been a fan favorite for both casuals and hardcore tournament players, professional players. There's not much I can say other than just rambling the same things that everyone else has said about this map, but maybe I can say one more thing that I think some people might not have mentioned, and that is every corridor is at the right length. What do I mean by that? Well, if you just walk or just run, then it's just a corridor. But then you realize that each corridor is actually shaped to the length of a strafe jump, your average strafe jump. Not necessarily the best strafe jump that a person can produce, but just your average strafe jump that's can be performed by your typical Quake 3 player. Every item is placed exactly where you want it to be. So even things like that is some things that people just don't think about. Now, I did modify the textures in this game just a bit, just to make it look a little nicer. For instance, that texture there had a very, very noticeable barrier or border where you can see the seams or where the textures connect with other textures. I modified it so it blends in a little nicer. But other than that, it's a very nice looking map. Could have been potentially distracting, but this is, you know, this is why professional Quake players, they always like lower the texture quality to the point where you really can't see the textures themselves. But it doesn't actually hurt the player's ability to see opponents or anything like that. So this one also gets an A+. There's not a lot I can complain about. And here is our last map. An Egyptian style map, just like New Edge. I became familiar with this map because of OSP. Flow is really fantastic. It still has its elements of strafe jumping. Now this is actually a slightly different version of this map than the OSP version. They added stairs here. And that's actually a good thing because there used to be, I think there was a jump pad or something like that. And you know, sometimes stairs is just better than a jump pad. You have a teleporter that takes you, again, from highest point on the opposite end of the map to the lowest point on this side of the map. So good teleporter placement, not random, not pointless. You're probably wondering why the steps are broken up into sections like this. This is a good thing. It makes strafe jumping much easier when they're broken into sections. To see how I'm able to strafe jump for longer periods of time because of this divide in the stairs. The person that made this map thought about traversing the map and not just trying to make something that looks cool. One exception would be these round stairs, but as you can see, because of their curved nature, you can get up these stairs so fast. And a jump pad is used in places where you absolutely need it and no more. All of these rooms have multiple entryways. It's so interconnected. You have so many options for navigation. Obviously, this is another detail I like. Rocket launcher to get up to the red, which is awesome. A jump pad, but again, you have options. There's other ways to get around in this map. So, you know, the usual stuff. Yes, there's important items in every major section of the map. There are plenty of landmarks. These two rooms could potentially blend together and almost look identical, but they're different enough that there's no way you can get these two rooms mixed up. Another thing I like about the weapon placement, the supplemental weapons, which is the shotgun and the grenade launcher, are placed on the way, meaning that they're in corridors, that they're not the focal point like some other maps tend to be, which isn't really good because, you know, the shotgun is actually very effective at close range, but far and medium, it's not that effective. So you want the shotgun to be more like an on-the-way weapon, like a weapon that's just sort of in the corridor. Good weapon placement, good armor placement and health placement. Landmarks, nice flow, doesn't take a long time to get from one end of the map to the other end. And yet there's still really cool visual flair, like little complexities in the terrain, you know, like you have this pile of sand here, get up there quicker. There's little things in this map where you can mess with people. So like if a person is down here and looks up and you collect the mega health, they could try to shoot you, but if you jump this way, they might think you're gonna land there, so your movement becomes very predictable. Or you can mess them up and be like, well, little random things like that. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. I'm just saying that the quirkiness of this map gives you lots of little interesting options to explore, to kind of throw people off like that. That's something nobody ever thinks to jump on top of, except obviously for pro players. But I just don't understand why this map isn't more renowned. I just don't see players play on maps like this, which is weird because it came bundled with OSP, which, you know, a lot of people prefer CPMA. Needless to say, it is a really nice looking map. Just ignore the corner and the skybox. Again, that's a driver issue. I noticed that when I updated my driver, it does that, but that's actually invisible. In fact, if I disable texture filtering, it goes away. So, it's weird. So yeah, this one also gets an A+. These are not actually my only favorite custom maps, but they are three of the ones that I wanted to highlight. Blood Covenant is an obvious one, but some people might say it's overrated. It is not. I thought it was. I got sick of it back during Quake 3's heyday, but I keep going back to it. It deserves the legendary status it has. So that's it for today. Until next time.